Now I need a throne. $500,000 Uncle Sam, hate to see it go. All money in the squad, didn't even know. Man, it's hot like a ghetto. Hey, calling from the ghetto.
KBLA Talk 1580. Can't believe it's been 3 years already. That's that weird pandemic time warp. Rest in peace to Nipsey Hussle. And we're just hearing from people who have some insight on his life and his legacy. This man who's been kind enough to call us this morning is an old classmate of Nipsey Hussle. He's an old friend. He's a vegan chef, or formerly was an herbalist, actually, at Simply Wholesome. Aaron Cook, a.k.a. Chef Deuce Frequency. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Peace and light.
Peace and light. Thank you for checking in. I appreciate it. We're all well here. And I appreciate, your sharing your memories and your insights this morning.
Yes. Very, very thankful to chime in with you guys. And it's always a beautiful thing to talk about Nip, Armias. Actually, we went to high school together at Hamilton High School, and we just were connected through the music. And he's just a good gentleman and a good brother who has created such an amazing platform of evolution and growth. And we just spent a good amount of time just developing ourselves within high school. And there was actually a photo that I put on my social media when he had transitioned, and it really circulated around the social media platforms. And I kind of wanted to just put that up there so people can kind of see that he has always been a person who has had foresight and who has always looked to progress his community, to progress his friends and his family. And I'm just very honored to have the opportunity to cross paths with him. And he was always about music. And at that time in high school, I was about music and dance, and we had the same classes together, and we just hit it off really great amongst other friends that we had in the circle. Armias and Jermaine and Evan were like my brothers. So Nip has always played a special role in my space, and I'm just honored that I had the opportunity to know him as he progressed in life.
So when you say this photo that you put up showed the inside and whatnot, what explain what you mean by that? Well, what did we see there that showed that early kind of vibe that you're talking about?
Yeah, I wanted to just post something that a lot of people may have not had the opportunity to see, that side of Nip. It was a photo that we took, I would say, probably the first couple of months that we were at Hamilton High School. And a lot of people did not have the opportunity to see a young photo of him. Usually a lot of photos were his up-to-date visuals, things that had to do with his music, but nothing of him, of his upbringing. And I just wanted people to just see another side of who he was and how he was always around good people that supported him. And I just wanted to be able to show people that photo. And I still get tagged on that photo today. And I think it's just a good representation to show that he's always been in groups and spaces to where he has been giving people good insight and great level up. And, he was always about music, and he put me on to a lot of music. By then I didn't know anything about Common. He put me on to Common. He put me on the Talib Kweli and Mos Def. He always bumped the Black on Both Sides album. I just remember him always going to Watts, because around that time Watts Towers had a space where you can go and do production and go do music. So he always was focused on evolving as a person. I'm just happy that the world had an opportunity to see what we always knew, which was him always leveling up and taking it to the next level.
That's interesting because, when you know people in high school or even before, I mean, you guys are longtime friends, a lot of times who they grow up to be doesn't resemble what they were putting out in high school. But it sounds like you saw it then.
Yeah. He was always conscious, always speaking about growth, always speaking about learning and putting himself in a position of learning. So that's the Ermias that I always knew, the Nip that I always knew. And as he progressed, you can see that he's put it in areas of music, financial literacy, things, but he's always had that. And people who knew and spent time in his humble beginnings know that he was always that type of person. So, the people that see him today that honor him because of so much information and knowledge that he has put out, he's been that person since I met in homeroom, since day one.
In
always.
Homeroom, that sounds amazing.
I think we had homeroom together first period, and we just connected with the music, and it just clicked. He was an open person, very, very easy to connect with, very easy to get along with. Joked a lot. You'd have fun. He was hilarious. He had that, amazing side that let you know he was very, very versatile. Just a cool guy. I remember us going to Six Flags, Magic Mountain, and getting on rides and just having fun and just. But still, he had that just. He still had that something. That's something that everybody knew that he would be doing some great things within the community and within his family. So I'm thankful for him.
Well, Chef Deuce, we continue the conversation. I want to find out about the whole holistic herbal connection. You're a vegan chef. You're an herbalist. And he connected with Dr. Sebi. May Sebi rest in peace as well. Want to focus on that, and we'll have some other folks joining the conversation as we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
Rest in peace, Nipsey Hussle, Ermias Escobar, his given name. And we're talking right now, if you want to talk about Nipsey Hussle, how he's inspired you, what your thoughts are on the eve of 3 years since he made his transition. He was murdered in front of his store, the store we were referring to there on Crenshaw and Slauson. And talking with us right now is his old friend Aaron. Chef Deuce, Frequency Chef Deuce, is an herbalist as well as being a vegan chef. And talk to me about that connection. I always thought that was such a trip. The people, April and other folks I know from Simply, Mia would say that, Nipsey would roll up and get his green drinks all the time. That was a thing. And then we heard, really, he turned Dr. Sebi into an international superstar. Talk to me about that. That relationship. When did you get into being a vegan and become an herbalist and all that stuff? From Hamilton High to famous vegan chef, and was that something that happened, that you guys, a journey you took together, or you guys kind of both arrived at that place individually?
Yeah, we kind of both arrived at that place individually. I ended up shifting from Hamilton High School around my 10th grade year. And, everybody finds their way and kind of, finds their rhythm. And so we would talk, every now and then, but as life takes you in different journeys, you sort of have a space. And so as I continued to journey, I just fell in love with nutrition and health and wellness and living a plant-based lifestyle. And I wanted to focus on my journey, operating with people in the community who didn't necessarily have the knowledge to be able to live that journey. So Simply Wholesome gave me an opportunity, April Sims, and she believed in what I was doing. And that's when I got reacquainted with Nip. After a couple of years, I saw him walking, in the spot every now and then, and we connected and we talked. And I think for him, just a person who wanted to see the community rising above, you of course is going to see that the food is something that should also be a focus. And in certain areas a lot of food sources are not available, especially good food sources. So I think just him being a philanthropist and a person who just wants to be holistic in what he's doing for the community, not just music and knowledge, but food. I think he put his studying with Dr. Sebi and how much he was impacting. And for me, I just continued to journey with it and did a little bit of studying under Dr. Paul Goss. And, something that you love, it just progresses. And, of course, when you're operating with the herbs, it's not so far in between that the food will come to follow. So I got a chance to study under a celebrity chef by the name of Lauren Vanderpool, who also gave me an opportunity to learn. And then that's when my plant-based vegan journey had began. So I've just had really, really awesome, amazing people that believed in what I was doing and continued to elevate me and gave me the confidence to do it. And so now I have a business called Cosmic Cuisine. I'm a private chef here in Atlanta, Georgia. But LA, of course, is always home. And so I'm just enjoying helping people take it to the next level in their health and wellness so we can, achieve what we need to achieve health-wise. Yeah.
It's just unexpected. I mean, I expected, you expect it from the backpack rap crowd, kind of, the original Good Life in L.A., which I'm sure you're familiar with, even though you're probably a little kid at the time, and the whole, the green barley grass juice and wheatgrass juice and all that stuff. In fact, that was one of the things I was most impressed with when I moved to L.A., the fact that there is this whole thriving holistic health and wellness, alternative healing scene in the Black community. That wasn't something I saw in the same way in the Bay Area. We had the activism and the marching, but we only had the fast food. We didn't have the Mr. Wisdoms and the Good Life and the Simply Wholesomes like you all have here. So I was really, surprised by Nipsey's advocacy of that health and wellness, alternative kind of nutrition awareness. Because honestly, even when you talk about hip hop and those, you think Dead Prez maybe, or KRS-One or Del the Funky Homo Sapien, when you think about sort of the health and wellness Tribe Called Quest, you don't think of so-called gangster rap.
Right. Yeah, it kind of goes back to, me telling you about how conscious he has always been. And I know when he's trying to, for me, being around him, when he's really trying to learn about something, like he'll put his energy into it and learn about it and ask questions. And I think that's one thing that we should always remember about Nip is, sometimes what you see is definitely him, but he's so layered in other different type of amazing things that we might not be privy to because we don't see those parts of him. But for me, in him wanting to elevate in health and wellness to the community, for me, it's not a mystery that he would know about a Dr. Sebi or people on those type of levels, because I've always known him. If he's putting his mind to something that he wants to do, he's going to research and see who has been doing it. Of course, he's always respected his elders. That's just a part of his repertoire. So I think that him just letting people know about Dr. Sebi opened up a new door for people in his genre of music that may have not ever even heard of Dr. Sebi. So he's one that opens the doors. He's a door opener. So that's why his legacy will continue to live on.
Yeah, and with the whole tech piece and all of the entrepreneurship piece, the fish place and the hair, the barbershop, and all of these businesses, this is the thing that I think a lot of people that I was talking to from the entertainment and journalism world didn't realize right away is all of the jobs, right? As soon as we lost Nipsey Hussle, we lost a lot of jobs. We lost a lot of opportunity. Now, I know that his family has worked really hard to keep those things going, to keep, the marathon going. The marathon store continues. They're building another one up on Melrose. And, well, of course, the one in the community is still closed. But I know from my understanding, it's meant to become something like a museum, a cross between a museum and a store, or a museum with a store. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that evolves. And I know that the effort has been made to keep the businesses going, but I can't tell you, because I knew people that worked for him in various capacities, how many jobs were impacted. You know, people that worked at the store, the people that worked on the tech end, the people that worked in, that were working to build the other businesses. But it's interesting, we're talking about these different categories of rap, Miles. Like, okay, I would never expect, Eazy-E to be talking about Mr. Wisdoms, for example. But I feel like the lines are more blurred now, and there's although you still have, I hear about categories I didn't even know about. Everybody's doing more of everything, or I feel like people are less in boxes. Do you think that's true, Miles? You're an artist.
100%, especially in 2022. But before that, though, Nip was the one bridging that gap, or creating that. I even say bridging the gap, creating their own lane for himself and for other artists like him.
Yeah, I mean, even I see guys now, like, not to say that this was inspired by Nipsey, but I see guys doing all kinds of things that back in the day there's just no way that they would be doing. Well, start with singing, right. Start with singing and auto-tune and all, but also like wearing dresses and appearing in some different kinds of TV and film roles that don't match what we would associate with, would have in the past associated with hip hop.
Right. And I mean, the thing with Nip was that through the music, through the person, through the interviews, you kind of understood that he was authentically himself. He is a gang member. He did grow up in this situation. He has done X, Y, and Z. His background is stamped, but to still have the mindset and to want to change and transition with that solid background, you can't turn down a man like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, some of it you do because it's who you are. It's not like, oh, I'm allowed to do this now in hip hop. This is who I am.
Right.
And that's why it works. And also when I'm listening to you say that, I think part of that intensity of people's embrace of him in Africa, because trust and believe, I didn't see millions of rappers being represented that way in Lagos. Is that and the ability to continue to evolve, but still stay true to your roots. So it's not like, oh, now I'm into vegan food and green drinks, so now I'm rejecting Slauson. Now I'm rejecting my community. That was never an option.
Right. As opposed to that, what he did was he set up base in the community.
Right.
He imported that kind of stuff to the community that never heard about it, never seen about it. And, I guess that's what real kings do. Real kings still stay in the streets. They still work with everybody from the highest to the lowest of the community.
I remember when he was murdered, I was hoping that people wouldn't think, well, I don't want to. And, and we've seen some other artists killed in the past 3 years as well. And I don't know, do you guys think that it gives people pause? Like, well, I don't want to set up my base in my community. I'm going to go on out here and live in a gated community in Bel Air and never show up in the community because it's dangerous?
I wouldn't say it gave that.
KBLA Talk 1580. I'll just start vibing over here. Yeah, we're paying tribute to Nipsey Hussle today and sending love and prayers out to his family, his mama who lives in Los Angeles still, his children, his loved ones, famously, Lauren London, but all the ones we don't know. Community, family, and family. Just sending love and light to you today and tomorrow and all week long. It's always harder right around the time when a person made their transition. At least for me, it is around the time when my dad passed. When we lose people, when my mom passed, we reflect on them. And of course, when you are the loved one of a person who is now claimed by the world, now claimed by the city, by the nation, it's a beautiful thing, but it's also harder because you have to share them with the world. and while you're having your private pain, there's a public conversation going on. I feel for the family, my friend, the daughter of Malcolm X, the family of Martin Luther King, who will be experiencing the same thing next week as we mark the anniversary of his assassination. It's a very odd kind of reverence. It's a sadness and also an exposure, if you will, at the same time. Chef Deuce, Nipsey Hussle, Hermes Escoban's childhood friend, has joined us today, and I thank you for sharing your memories and sharing your vegan chefery with us. And just thank you for being here. Appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. And check some things I got going out in the community. Just really focusing on continually keeping the legacy alive in making sure that our community is just getting the nourishment and the nutrition that we need to be able to fortify ourselves. Because when you feel better, you think better. When you think better, we can work together as a collective to come to terms with certain things that we want to try to grow to, and
awesome.
And be the best we can be.
Chef Deuce Frequency, we can follow you on IG, and thank you for all the good food and all the good conversation. We're being joined now by a nationally recognized journalist. He's also an adjunct professor, a hip-hop historian, and a syndicated talk show host. Davey D, good morning.
Good morning, Dominique. How you all doing?
Good. I was hoping you could give us kind of the sort of scholarly spin, I guess, if you will. I wanted to really give love and pay tribute to Nipsey Hussle. 3 years after his murder, we are actually broadcasting from Crenshaw, not far from the Marathon store here in L.A. If you are, walking down the street or living here, the impact is clear. But how do you place, I know a lot of people, especially in the mainstream entertainment world, who weren't as familiar with Nipsey Hussle until his death.
Yeah. Well, that's true. And unfortunately, we live in a world where Black Death becomes kind of like the fodder, for a lot of people. We celebrate people, we go back and kind of rediscover who they are, all that sort of stuff, and then we give them praise. And that's good, but I think what hurts is when people die before their proverbial time, and you realize that they were on their way to a special place, that they were ascending to heights that would really be inspiring and really kick down some doors. And Nipsey had all that going for him. He was, in my opinion, doing the things that people have often lambasted and said, I just wish these artists would, get together and pool their money and do something for the community. That's what he was doing. I wish these artists would be more family-oriented. That's what he was. I wish these artists would, do something more than just music. Why don't they come back to the hood? That's what he did. And he wasn't going to stop there. He was about the business of empowering people around him and really exemplifying what do for self really means, what cooperation really means among family and friends. And to have his life cut short in the way that it was, that to me is what hurts, because it takes the wind out of the sails, so to speak. It just kind of, for some people, it's like, damn, can we ever, get over the mountain? We couldn't do it because this happened. And I think in the aftermath of his death, you kind of say to yourself, okay, we're going to have to try and carry out that legacy. As people were saying, the marathon still continues, but you just can't but help think how much further along could we have been if he was alive. And And when I think of Nipsey's depth, I think of Tupac's depth, and I think of Biggie's depth, and I think of all these other people who, you know, were special. And you just wish that they could have gone longer. They could have been around longer, and what the conversations we would be having would be like now, and what sort of impact they would really have. And, you know, unfortunately, Nipsey is part of a long line of people that have died before their time. You talked about Dr. King. You talked about Malcolm. I think there's generations of people that are looking and kind of, you know, reflecting on, damn, if only Malcolm was able to be around longer, if only Martin had been around longer. And,
yeah,
you know, I just don't want death at such a young age to be normalized.
I mean, it is
community.
stunning when you.
I don't want to ever get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, when I reflect back, you know, on Tupac passing, I was like, he was only 26. You know, now it seems so young. Back then, it seemed, you know, well, we were all much younger than Biggie. Biggie was only 24. It's true. I'm going to ask this question. I want to ask Miles Lowe, who, you know, is a rap artist who works with me here every morning, but also you, Davey D. Like, how would you place Nipsey Hussle in terms of his style, in terms of his, in terms of, we'll start with you, Miles, because since you are actually a rap artist, like, where would you place him in terms of his style, in terms of the pantheon of rappers, of importance, but also of style?
I think style's really relative, so I'm gonna tiptoe around that one. I don't think Nip was I'll start with the down part. I don't think Nip was the lyricist of some of the greats, but I think, like I said, Nip's authenticity, Nip's passion, Nip's message, all that, and culminates to make something bigger than what the lyrics itself were on a technical level. So I put him, I don't think his body of work, I don't think he had enough time to have a body of work to call him a quote-unquote legend. That's been a debate on the internet the last few years, but I do think that he was on his way, and he's definitely a street legend, and he's definitely a LA icon at this point.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you the same question, Dave. Where would you place him in sort of the pantheon of hip hop?
I think Nipsey personified what music expression, black music expression, is really all about. It's not about how good you are; it's about how accessible you are, and it's about how people feel you, not how they hear you.
KBLA Top 1580. I'm Dominique DiPrima. The show is First Things First. Rest in peace, Nipsey Hussle. Man almighty, that was it was a terrible, terrible day when he was murdered almost 3 years ago. 3 years ago tomorrow. And the reverberations in the community. Of course, I was out on Slauson as there was a procession throughout the city paying tribute. And the Nation of Islam did an incredible job of keeping the community safe, even while there was a lot of grief and a lot of celebration of life and legacy at the same time. And I know we don't have too much time. I feel like I just want to ask you. I want to ask you this, Miles. Ask you this as an artist. You know, you talk about the technicality of the lyrics versus and Davey D also. Do you feel someone or do you hear someone? And the business piece, there's so much more. The community piece, Nipsey would show up at schools and give away stuff and talk to kids in his community. What was it that made you connect with him, Miles? Because it's something I see. I know that you feel the music.
Well, Nipsey was one of the ones who encompassed like my upbringing, my high school age days. So I grew up listening to the Nipseys, the Big Seans, but Nip always stood out the most being the voice of the West Coast, but like we said, he's authentically himself. He's still in the community. He's not talking about just one part of it. He's giving you the details of his upbringing, but he's also giving you a vivid detail of his plan, of his motives, of the business side of things when they weren't telling you that. When all you were getting from hip-hop at the time was sex, drugs, rock and roll at a certain point in time.
Yeah. David D, what hit you about him? What did you feel? You said felt more than heard. What did you feel? I mean, you are a hip hop historian. You listen to all of them.
I really enjoyed his interviews. I enjoyed his mental. I enjoyed listening to him speak and share his vision. It just added to the music. that's what I was saying before. Like, you hear him speak, you hear him talk about things that he wants to do. Listen to his music; it takes on a different dimension. I just hear it with a different ear. And to Miles' point, you could feel like, nah, this is the dude that really is walking the walk and talking the talk, and it doesn't feel like it's forced. It feels like he's really authentic about where he's coming from. And there's a certain degree of intentionality, like he wasn't going to distance himself from his background and try to go, quote unquote, Hollywood. But it's like, look, this is where I'm from. I'm from Crenshaw. These are my people. But this is also what I'm trying to strive to. And so there was a certain amount of vulnerability, if I could use that word, or along with authenticity, that just made you want to lock in. So when you picked up a song, you kind of had that lens to interpret it more than just listening to a beat or a lyric and then maybe projecting your own position in life on it. You got the full enchilada, if I could use that term, from Nipsey.
We are, as one day from now will be 3 years, in some ways 3 hours, since Nipsey Hussle was murdered, not too far from this radio station. And we are just putting some love, light, and elevation around his name this morning. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
You have the right to remain silent, but don't let them hear you on KBLA Talk 1580. The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
So I just got a few minutes here before we pass the mic to Tavis Smiley. I know he's got a great lineup of guests and conversations for you this morning. And as we, give love and give some light to Nipsey Hussle, I mentioned the fish store and the barbershop and the marathon store. There's also Victor 90, right? And the whole tech piece as far as incubating startups, and the smart store, which is something right on Slauson and Crenshaw that didn't even happen it was something that we hadn't even seen in Beverly Hills. All of those things are relevant. David D, what else would you leave us with? What do you think maybe people don't think about when they think about his impact?
Follow through. A lot of people talk a good game, but they don't do it. Execution. Him meeting with sports people, him meeting with business people, him, kind of delegating and saying, let's do this, and really doing it. There are some that you see, like your Marshawn Lynch's, I think, do that, and there are others. But that, I think, is real important. We always have these meetings where we're like, this is what we need to do. We all need to come together. He did it. He did what we said we wanted to do. And I hope in honoring him that we take a page out of his book and we follow through. That if we say we want to have cooperative economics in the community, let's start today. What does that look like? We don't need to have 50,000 people come together and all agree. Can we just get 10 people or maybe 5 people in our community, and we embark upon a mission that we see from start to finish? The things that you just named off are things that people don't do in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Organizations don't do in a lifetime. And he did that at such a young age. So there's no excuse for us not to be able to follow up and enhance the stuff that he kind of laid down for us to be inspired by and motivated by. Hustle and motivate.
David D, thanks. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm gonna end with a quote from Nipsey, and also his embrace of Africa, his African roots. Let's not forget that. Here's what Nipsey said. He said, "It sounds simple, telling people to work hard and never quit, but to really execute and demonstrate those principles takes discipline and faith. Those are the two factors that I believe separate the good from the great, the successes from the failures." We've got news and traffic, then Tavis Smiley. I'm Dominique DiPrima. Until Friday, one love.